The one constant through all the years has been baseball. Those words from Field of Dreams couldn't ring more true as we've hit the All-Star break here in the 2025 season. Seasons change, teams rise and fall, but this game, our game, remains a part of who we are. And today on the TroupCast, we're bringing in one of the best to talk about where the Pirates stand at the halfway mark and what lies ahead in the second half of the season. Pittsburgh Baseball Now and baseball veteran writer, MLB insider John Perrotto joining us to break it all down from Paul Skenes to the trade deadline buzz that's in and around the Pittsburgh Pirates. One of Pittsburgh's most respected baseball writers, John has been covering the Pirates and Major League Baseball for decades. John, welcome back to the TroupCast, powered by oneBURGH. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ed. How are you?
Doing good, John. Doing good. A lot better than our Pittsburgh Pirates, that's for sure. At the break, currently sitting at 39 and 58, 19 games under 500, 18 and a half games back of the first place Chicago Cubs in the NL Central. 26 and 21 at home throughout the first half of the season, and a 13 and 37 record on the road. Of course, they went 1-8 in the final 9 games on that road stand, with the losses in Seattle and Chicago, and then finishing up 1-2 against the Minnesota Twins. So, John, give us your overall assessment of the Pittsburgh Pirates so far this season. Are they where you expected them to be at this point when you think back to what you thought in March?
Well, I thought they were a little overambitious to think they were going to make the playoffs this year. And I know that was from day one of spring training, and all through spring training. That was the talk with Derek Shelton and Ben Cherington, and even the players. This is the year we're going to get to the playoffs. This is the year we're getting back to the postseason. I looked at that lineup 1 through 9 and said, boy, I don't know how you reach the playoffs with a lineup that weak. And I knew that, I mean, it was fairly obvious to everyone their pitching would be good, and it's been as good or better than I thought it would be. But the offense is just terrible, right at the bottom of the league. Major League's the 30th in runs scored, just a little bit below the Chicago White Sox, which make for a very fun weekend series at PNC Park when those two heavyweights clash for 3 days.
Yeah, you take a look at the total runs scored on the season, John, 326 total by the Pittsburgh Pirates. That is the lowest in Major League Baseball. You mentioned the White Sox right there with them. From a hitting standpoint, you have Andrew McCutchen, who actually leads the team, a batting average of 255. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing that Kutch is still hitting 255, or you look at it as he's your leading hitter so far throughout the first half of the season. Onel Cruz, we saw him in the home run derby on Monday night, 16 home runs at the break, but only batting 212 on the season and 37 RBIs. And Brian Reynolds, he's been a big disappointment so far. Leads the team in RBIs with 46, but batting 225 and only 10 home runs.
Yeah, I look at O'Neill Cruz, and it shows you in that home run derby on Monday night what could be. Now, I realize he's swinging at 68-mile-per-hour fastballs right down the middle of the plate. But still, I mean, the raw power, the raw ability, we've all seen it. I mean, he hit a ball 513 feet in the home run derby. And, I mean, we know he can run like the wind. He has a strong arm. Whether he puts it all together or not, we'll find out eventually. And Brian Reynolds has been a huge disappointment. There's no doubt. I mean, from the Pirates' sake, they had better hope that this was just a bad first half, because if it's a sign that he is in decline, he's under contract for 5 more years after this year. So they're going to end up really paying a lot of money on the back end to a guy who might not be very productive. I think he still has something left. He's shown enough flashes in the first half to think that this was a bad half, but we'll find out.
John, what has been your biggest storyline so far throughout this 2025 season? We know off the field, there was the PR stuff with the Bucco bricks, the Clemente sign in right field early on in the season, the bobbleheads that were promised for fans that they're still waiting for at this point. But either off the field or on the field, what's been your biggest storyline so far?
Well, there's been a bunch of them, like you just said, the whole brick thing, the Clemente sign. To me, the two biggest storylines, in my way of thinking, or one is on the field with Paul Skenes. I mean, he's having another phenomenal year. His ERA is 2.01, best in the big leagues. has a whip under one, which is really hard to do. Walks and hits per 9 innings. And he's 4-8, which is like criminal. I mean, how could this guy be the best pitcher in the National League? Best pitcher, really, other maybe than Tarek Skubal from the Tigers and all of baseball right now, be 4-8. I mean, it's amazing that you have a pitcher who you might make a case when it's all said and done is the greatest pitcher ever to wear a Pirate uniform. Now, he's going to wear another uniform much more than he will a Pirate in his career. And you can only win 4 games for the guy in the first half. And the other storyline would be them firing Derek Shelton in early May and replacing him with Don Kelly as the bench coach. And, I know the Pirates had that really horrendous road trip there at the end of the first half going 1-8. But clearly it's been a change since Kelly took over as manager. They've played better baseball than they were. I mean, they were horrendous the first 6 weeks, 7 weeks of the season with some of the mental mistakes, some of the base running mistakes, some of the fielding mistakes. They have cleaned a lot of that up since Kelly took over. Now it's just a matter of the fact he doesn't have all that much talent to work with to work a miracle with him. But I do think it does raise the question, why did they bring Derek Shelton back this year when a lot of people thought that he should have been let go at the end of last season? And you basically wasted this season. But by the time you made the move, they're 12-26. And also raises the question, why did Ben Cherington come back after the way they fell apart last year? So, it almost feels like it's been a wasted year, like from the beginning. And maybe if they would have had a new beginning, they would have gone off to a better start. And I'm not saying they'd be in the playoffs, but I don't think they would be in this big of a hole because, I mean, I didn't expect them to win a World Series this year or even go to the playoffs, but I certainly didn't expect to be 19 games under at the All-Star break, too. That just is kind of hard to fathom with the pitching they have.
John, you mentioned Don Kelly, of course, big local product of Mount Lebanon, went to Point Park to play baseball. NAIA, of course, goes on, has a decent Major League Baseball career in and around a few different teams, including the Pirates' first season. Has he done enough to this point, do you think, at least in your book, to warrant coming back next year for the 2026 season? Or do you want to see what happens here in the second half of the season first?
I'm leaning towards saying to bring him back, and sure as I say that, they'll go like 12-40 the rest of the season. But no, I mean, there has been a noticeable difference with the way they played, the attitude, the clubhouse. I mean, the thing about Don is he's a very upbeat guy. Not that Shelton wasn't, but Donnie's a very authentic guy. He truly is like the typical Western Pennsylvania guy. I mean, what you see with Donnie is what you get. He doesn't put on any airs. He doesn't put on any act. And the fact that he scratched out like over 6 years of service time in the big leagues for a guy who admittedly wasn't the most talented player in the world. He had to do the dirty work, be a utility guy, be the third catcher, be the guy that pitches an inning of mop-up when you're losing by 10 runs. But he did all that, and he has great baseball acumen. He has a really good feel for the game. He has a great feel for dealing with people. And I would love to see him get a clean slate next year and start from day one and see how well he does. So to make a long answer short, yes, I hope he does. But if he will or not is going to depend at least partially on what happens with the general manager.
Speaking of the general manager and Ben Cherington, that's another burning question, John, in and around Pirates Nation. Does he come back next year? You mentioned Shelton got fired early this season. Nutting decided to stay with Cherington. There was some talk that they wanted to keep him in place because he had done all this work for the Major League Baseball draft, and they wanted him to get through the draft. The draft's been the highlight for him, and we can talk about the Major League Baseball draft in just a bit. They've had a lot of success, including this year, I think, at least with those first couple picks. But, the writing's on the wall. The team on the field, not what anywhere near it should be, especially from a run support standpoint with this great pitching they have. Do you expect Cherington back next year?
I do, and I know a lot of people will say I'm crazy about this, that think there is no chance he'll come back, but I've been told by people in the organization and people outside the organization who have talked to people inside the organization, there's a pretty decent chance. Now, I want to say for sure, but there's a decent chance he's going to get one more year, one more off season to see what he can do. And, I know part of it is he's under contract for 2 more years beyond this year. But I've been told that Bob Nutting still has faith in him, and he would like to see what a Cherington-Kelly combination could do over a full season, which presumably be 26. So I'm not so sure Ben's going to get fired. Now, if you ask me if I think he should, I mean, it's kind of hard to justify 6 years of this. I mean, it is the big leagues, and you've got to win at some point. It's not like rec league ball, but yeah, I would not be surprised as much as other people will if he's back next year.
So Cherington and Kelly possibly back for next year. You're feeling pretty good about that. I agree with you. Not so much on the Cherington part, but Don Kelly for sure. But they got to play hard for him in the second half as they have since he took over. We're talking with John Perrotto of Pittsburgh Baseball Now. You can check out John's excellent coverage of Major League Baseball and the Pittsburgh Pirates at Pittsburgh Baseball Now. An article, John, you have up today. We were talking before we came on the podcast. Many factors why the Pirates ready to sink underwater. Pretty amazing stat you threw out there today. Their all-time franchise record, 10,878 wins and 10,877 losses. One game above 500 right now, the all-time franchise record. And another great stat with that, the last time that the franchise went under 500 was 122 years ago, 1903, and that history might repeat itself as early next week.
It could be by Saturday night when they play the second game after the break. It could be, although the White Sox are worse than the Pirates, which is
right,
kind of hard to fathom. But anyway, it didn't get this way in a day. And like I wrote in the column on Pittsburgh Baseball Now, the easiest thing to do is say it's Bob Nutting's fault. And a lot of it is Bob Nutting's fault. He hasn't spent the money. He hasn't hired the right people. But this decline started basically in the 80s when the baseball landscape changed and there become more of a payroll disparity between big market and small market. But I also don't want to let the Pirates totally off the hook for being a small market franchise either. But that's what started the Pirates' problems. They were underfinanced. With the Galbraith family finally got out of the business, it became too much for them. Then the public-private consortium that bought the team and saved it here at the end of the 85 season, they weren't really greatly funded, and they were to be just a caretaker until a deeper pocketed owner was found. Well, they found Kevin McClatchy, who nobody wanted to win more than Kevin, but by like normal people's standards, he's rich. But by rich people's standards, he's not rich. He's, and he just didn't have the money to put into it. Now, Nutting, I don't know. People, there's some people who claim he has plenty of money he could put into it. Others say he's not worth as much as the fans that are against him are. I don't have access to his bank account, so I don't know how much money he has and exactly what he's worth. But it does seem that he's not very interested in really building a good team here. But again, a lot of it is the way baseball has gone. But the Pirates have compounded the problem by making a lot of poor decisions over the last 35 or 40 years. It seems like for every good decision they made, whether it was hiring a manager, hiring a GM, hiring a president of, team president, or make a good trade, for every good decision they made like 2 or 3 bad ones. And that too, beyond the financial realm, is why they are where they are.
John, to me, it seems like 1992, the NLCS, Sid Bream, safe at home plate. That's what started this epic downfall, and they have not been able to recover since. We know they had the playoff run of 13, 14, and 15, but didn't, won a wild card series, but didn't win a playoff series beyond that wild card series. So really, you look past all the way back to 1979, not only the last time that the Pirates won a World Series. That's the last time they made it to a World Series. It's been a long time coming. We had Lanny Fateri here on the podcast about a month ago, and we asked Lanny about that and talked to him about calling that 1992 NLCS game. And that really, I think, was the turning point in this franchise. Bonds leaves after that season. Other players, Drabek, they leave, and they have not been able to recover since.
They really haven't. And, I think everyone knew that 92 was the year. They had to win. They'd gone to the LCS in 90 and 91. If they were going to do it, they were going to do it now, because everyone knew they were going to lose Bonds, they were going to lose Draybeck. I think a lot of people didn't think they would just totally whack the payroll in half, but everyone knew. I mean, they'd let Bonilla leave as a free agent the year before. They traded John Smiley in spring training that year, so. It was. I was there that night. I covered the game. I was the beat writer at Beaver County Times, and I mean, it was devastating to that team. I mean, it's the only time I've ever walked in, and this includes high school, college, professional, that I ever walked into a locker room after a game that the team lost, and just devastation. I mean, 3/4 of the players were sitting at their lockers crying, and everyone knew they were in for a downtime. But I will say that being said, I don't think anybody that night, if I would have taken a poll in the clubhouse, which wasn't really the right time to do it, but if I would have and said, hey, do you think it'll be 2013 before this franchise has another winning season? Nobody would believe that. I mean, it's almost impossible. Even if you tried to have that many losing seasons in a row, you wouldn't. So, yeah, that was the turning point. And I also think you mentioned 79 real quick. I don't want to get too far off the subject. My dad and I went to that game. I was 15. We got standing room tickets, and I'm 61 now, so that tells you how long ago that was. And never, ever, ever, as a 15-year-old junior in high school, if you'd have told me that would be the last World Series game played in Pittsburgh when you're 61, I would never, ever believed it. Never. I mean, I grew up in the 70s. They won 6 division titles in 10 years. They won 2 World Series, and I could have never, ever envisioned that in a million years, that we'd be sitting here talking and that be the last World Series they played in.
As you said, the last that they played it, not only just won, but even make it past a divisional series. We're talking with John Perrotto. John, if I got that wrong earlier, I apologize, my friend. Pittsburgh Baseball Now. I might have mixed up the order of that, but you can catch John and his writing at pittsburghbaseballnow.com. The writer over there, and of course,
not later, now.
What's that?
Not Pittsburgh Baseball later. Pittsburgh Baseball Now.
There you go. Not later. Now, I got nervous for a second. I thought I messed it up like a third time. Like, wait a minute.
No.
It's not later. John, let's talk about the trade deadline coming up, and the Pirates most likely once again will be sellers. They started a move here this week, right after the All-Star game, trading Adam Frazier to the Kansas City Royals for a prospect there in AAA. Is this the beginning of what's going to be many moves for the Pirates between now and the trade deadline?
It's going to be interesting to see, if Cherington is indeed coming back next year, and he thinks, if he thinks he's coming back, then maybe he holds on to like Mitch Keller, who, to me, and talking to scouts and executives around the league, other than Paul Skenes or O'Neill Cruz, who are not going to trade, he's the player they have with the most value. He's got 3 years left on his contract beyond this year, and by non-Pirate standards, he really isn't all that expensive for at least a somewhat above average big league pitcher that he is. So that's going to be telling to see, because he's the one guy they should be able to get something for, some offensive help for, and guys who aren't making a lot of money in the big leagues now, or guys at AAA who are real close to being ready, or just being blocked in their organization by somebody better ahead of them who should be in the big leagues but just don't have that opening at the moment. I think David Bednar is another guy I think you got to consider trading. He's making $5.9 million. He'll be arbitration eligible for the last time in the winter, and I just don't see the Pirates paying a relief pitcher as good as he is and as popular as he is. I don't see them paying him $8, $9, $10 million next year. So I think those two are the most interesting guys that he can trade. But, there's other people that they can get like low-level prospects for. I think Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, he's a better fit as a utility guy than an everyday shortstop, and he'll even admit that himself. I mean, he's pretty good self-evaluator, and he knows he's a little stretch playing shortstop every day. I think you could probably get a little something for him. Tommy Pham started to hit, and he's Mr. Trade Deadline. He gets traded every year at the deadline, and they got a little something for Frazier. I mean, they weren't going to get a top prospect for a guy like Adam Frazier, so I mean, they have some pieces. I think Andrew Heaney might get them a decent prospect. Certainly not like a top of the line can't miss guy, but somebody with potential. So, they have a few, but I think that the real key is Keller. Oh, and I should throw Dennis Santana in there too while we were talking about relievers. But I think the key is, will they let Keller? Will they trade Keller? Will they get what they feel is fair value for Keller? Because they are not forced to trade Mitch. It's not like Nutting has said, hey, you've got to get the payroll down to this, so you've got to get rid of somebody. I mean, if they trade Mitch Keller, it shouldn't be at least one of those, well, we'll just see what we can get for him and get rid of him. I mean, they need to use him as a trade chip to actually get some help.
John, will we see Bubba Chandler here in the second half of the season? He's the next big pitching prospect to come up. Of course, we saw Paul Skenes last year. We know about Skenes, but is Chandler the next one? And do you think he'll be called up here in the second half?
I think so. I know when Mike Burrows got called up, a lot of fans were upset that Chandler didn't get called up. But I talked to some scouts who had seen Chandler pitch right around that time, and they said he needs better command of his pitches, especially in the strike zone. He wasn't walking a whole lot of people, but they said he's just his control and his command just isn't good enough right now, and he'd get hit around if he were in the big leagues. And they proved to be right, because he did have that rough stretch there for like 3 or 4 starts where he didn't do well. But boy, he's really locked it back in these last few starts in Indiana. I've got to believe he's going to up sooner rather than later. I mean, he's seems to have got over his control and his command issues, and why not? You need to find out. Let him. Let's face it, they're out of the race, so why not bring him up and see what he can do in a more of a low pressure situation, and let him ease his way into the big leagues.
Absolutely no pressure here in the second half of the season to bring up our rookie pitcher and break him in and get him ready possibly for 2026. The pitching looks great, John. When you look at the current staff, what's in the minors, what's available, what the staff could and should look like in the next couple of years, it's exciting. But on the offensive side, we know the struggles. We talked about the 326 total runs scored in the first half of the season, the lowest in Major League Baseball. You would hope if they do make some moves here before the trade deadline, it's the booster this offense.
Yeah, and not guys like an A ball or rookie league ball.
Right.
They need people, who can help, if certainly not this year, by next year. If they don't get major league guys right now, they need, as we talked about earlier, they need to find those guys in triple or double A who are like either blocked in their organizations that should be, or big league players that just don't have the opportunity where they're at, or somebody who's close enough, like say, well, if he spends the last 2 months in AAA this year, then he'll be ready next spring to compete for a job or even, win a job. But yeah, it's very obvious. And I mean, even Ben Cherington admits that they have to bolster their offense. The thing is, they have the pitching to trade to do it, though you never want to trade too much pitching because you know what happens then. But I do think they have enough excess pitching that they should be able to get somebody, and not like a Billy Cook or a Nick York like last year, like a more higher rated prospect than that. That they should get more than one. And, we'll see. Ben Cherington has not been very good at trading for hitters, and he's not been very good at signing hitters, and he's not been good at drafting hitters. It's been a blind spot, and I think a lot of it, Ed, is more an organizational situation. I think they have too many data scientists as hitting coaches in the minor leagues and not enough guys who know how to hit a baseball. And I'm sorry to say it. I mean, they're all good guys, but, there's more to it than charts and graphs. You got to take a bat, you got to swing, and you got to make contact with the ball at some point. And I think that gets lost in the Pirates organization sometimes. They almost outthink themselves.
John, for the second straight Major League Baseball draft, the Pirates drafted the National High School Baseball Player of the Year. And they got it in another pitcher this past weekend when they had the Major League Baseball draft here for 2025. One thing I think Cherington has done relatively well, and I know Skenes was an almost impossible miss, but he's built around that these last few drafts with those top 10 picks. How do you rate this first round draft pick they just made in the last few drafts that Cherington has drafted?
I like it. I know people immediately, and I know it's easy. The Pirates have put themselves in a position where anything they do is going to get criticized, and
Right.
understandably so. I mean, their track record's not very good, so it's easy to doubt anything they do. But I will say this: he was the best player there at number 6, and I know I had some scouts tell me that they thought he was probably had the biggest upside of anybody in the draft, even Ethan Holiday, even Eli Willits that went first. You never know with pitchers, but I mean, there's a lot to like about him. He throws hard. He has a good changeup, which a lot of 19-year-old kids aren't able to throw a quality changeup. So he's already ahead of the game there. And, I like it. Like you said, last year, I liked the Connor Griffin signing. For him to still be there at 9 was a bit of a surprise, and I'm glad they didn't outsmart themselves and not take Connor Griffin. And the year before with Skenes, it's obvious now, but in fairness, and not to apologize for the Pirates, but the industry was really, really split between Skenes and his LSU teammate Dylan Cruz, the outfielder, and there were a lot of people I talked to that thought they should take Cruz with the first pick because he was an everyday player and they thought he was all-star caliber player. Well, he's been up in the big leagues for a couple of years for the Nationals, and I mean, he's really struggled. So I mean, it turned out to be the right move with Skenes, but it wasn't the automatic like, oh my God, everyone in baseball would take him number 1. There were a certain group of baseball people who thought that Dylan Cruz would be the better long range player.
John, we got about 5 minutes left with you. Let's talk about the All Star game that took place this week in Atlanta. Exciting game. The National League wins in a swing off. First time we've seen that. Very exciting there at the end as the National League defeats the American League in that extra inning swing off of a home run derby. They win that game 7-6. But I want to ask you about what you thought about that new concept of instead of playing extra innings, you have something like how the NHL does a shootout for hockey to avoid ties. And the other was the automated replay on balls and strikes, which was used several times last night during that All-Star game to correct an incorrect call at the plate. They get it right, and they got it right quickly. I think it was within 3 or 4 seconds, and they were resuming playing baseball. Your thoughts on that technology, and should it be implemented a full time into the game? And also your thoughts on the extra inning of the swing off.
Well, I'm a baseball traditionalist, but I'm going to be honest. When I remember a couple years ago when they said that would happen if there was ever a game at a tie at the end of the ninth inning, and to be honest, I'd forgot about it. That was like 4 or 5 years ago. That was what they were going to do until it got time. Joe Davis said on the broadcast there'll be no extra innings, and I thought, oh yeah. And I remember at the time thinking, oh my God, what a gimmick that is. That's terrible, but it was dramatic.
Yeah.
It was cool. I mean, I would think I'm the last person that would say that, but I thought it was cool, Ed. I really did, and I love the ABS system. I saw a little bit of it, just a tiny bit in spring training. I like the efficiency of it, and I like the fact that the calls were most calls were challenged, got overdone, not most, but over 50% got overturned, and I like the runner on second in extra innings. I thought that with all of them, that like I was apoplectic when they said they're going to go to that. I'm like, oh God, no. But it does add an element, an exciting extra element to an extra inning game. So, as much as I don't think Rob Manfred is a big fan of baseball, I think he's more a fan of making money. He's had some pretty good ideas here, and I think myself and everyone needs to give him a little more credit probably than we do give him.
I'm with you, John. I'm an old school baseball guy too. And when some of these ideas arrive, I'm like, no, no, keep the game the way it is. Don't do a pitch count or pitch clock or a batter's clock. Don't put the replay in. Don't do this. But every time they do it, and I watch it, it speeds up the game. It makes it more entertaining. And the swing off last night in extra innings, I actually stayed up and watched the entire thing. It was dramatic. It was entertaining. It was awesome. I think it's something they should think about maybe possibly putting in during the regular season and regular games. And the instant replay to get the call right, I think was last night. I think it was perfect. I don't think there was one time they challenged the call and it didn't get overturned.
It didn't, and it's quick. That's what I
That's
like
the
about
key.
it. It's not,
Yep.
not like a 2 minute, you wait and you wait. I mean, basically 10 seconds, and if that, and they make the call and move on with the game. Sometimes I wish, and I realize plays on the bases and traps and catches, things like that are a little harder to determine than a ball strike. But it's a nice. That was my biggest concern. I thought, oh, here we go. Every pitch challenge, it's going to be 2 minutes. Look at it from 15 angles, and it's not. It's like, okay, there it is. It's a ball or it's a strike, and I like it. And like you said, the pitch clock too. But that was one thing I was been long in favor of. I just thought the time between pitches was ridiculous. And I mean, dragging out like a 4-2 game for 3.5 hours in a game it used to be 2 hours and 20 minutes. Just, I think they were losing fans. They know they were losing fans. They were losing TV viewers. I mean, you had to make a serious time commitment just to watch a normal game, not one that goes 15 innings or something like that. And I'll give Rob Manfred, and I begrudgingly do it because he's not my favorite person, but he's come up with some pretty good ideas that have worked. People like it.
I always said during games 1 or 2 or 3 of the Major League Baseball season, fans don't mind sitting through a 3.5, 4 hour game, but certainly by game number 100, 138, 162, you know where I'm going with this. It's just brutal. And now you have a Pirate game that starts at 6:40 and it's usually over by 9. Is good all the way around, John, not just for fans, but guys like you that are on deadlines and have
Yeah.
to write articles, right?
Yeah, it is. And, I don't want to sound selfish there, but yeah, that's part of why I like these roles too. I'm not going to lie. But I think it's much better. Working people don't get home at 1 in the morning and have to get up at like 6 or 7 to go to work. It's good for kids, like you can take them to the game and not have them out after midnight. You can get home at a decent hour, put them to bed at their normal bedtime. And I just think there's a lot of positive stuff. Now, if they can just work out a labor agreement before the end of next year, all this good stuff might go by the wayside by spring training, if there is a spring training in 27. But yeah, I think baseball's really got some momentum on its side again now that it hasn't had in a number of years. And I think last night just added to it. It was a good game. Interesting game. The Hank Aaron tribute at the end of the sixth inning was really amazing. I mean, I jaded to all this kind of stuff after a million years of covering it, but that was really cool. And I wish I could have been there in the stadium for that because that was really neat. So really, baseball's in a good spot here. And now the big thing is to get that labor agreement hammered out without losing a season or part of a season.
One of the best, John Perrotto, to ever do it and currently doing it, writing Major League Baseball and covering your Pittsburgh Pirates. Make sure you check him out at Pittsburgh Baseball Now, not later. Pittsburgh Baseball
Now,
Now.
now.
PittsburghBaseballNow.com. John Perrotto, thank you so much for coming on and talking baseball with us. John, I said it last year. I'll say it again. I'd love to have you back on, but I need a reason to do it. Maybe I just bring you back on to talk about football.
Okay, yeah, I could just make stuff up about football and pretend I know something. Yeah.
I'm not sure we'll have anything baseball to talk about unless it's outside of Pittsburgh.
I do know that either Mike Tomlin is the greatest coach in the history of the NFL or the worst coach in the history of the NFL because I hear both all the time. So I don't know. I'll have to think about that.
Well, it all depends if they win 10 or more games, right?
True.
So,
True.
John Perrotto, thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me.
That's going to do it for the TroupCast for this week, powered by oneBURGH. We'll see you next week right here on the TroupCast. Have a great night, everyone.